Hello guys, my name is Michael Rusin. I am a developer who has been developing for a number of years and copied approximately 30 books. I'm here today making another video in regards of having a bit of a discussion of how to become a better programmer, generally, in the general term. Not a specific language, not a specific theory, not a specific adhering to any specific principle, but more general terms. So step number one. Step number one is that something that's very common in programming infrastructures, especially in work and whatever now, is this decentralization of structure, basically. Like a lot of people, they don't have all of their files collected in one space. Perhaps they're using different versioning files. Maybe someone has an old file somewhere scraping about. Maybe someone has their version they push to the server or the live environment, and then that bugs up and someone else has and whatnot. So versioning systems are really important, and not only versioning systems, but also how you use them, like how you integrate these into your system, because this is very, very important. It has a lot to do with how you perform a very structured and organized way of handling code projects, basically. So use versioning systems and use it with good versioning hygiene. The second thing I'd like to talk about is um, assertive assertive assumptions that people have in terms of programming. Like a lot of people, a lot of bugs derive from this concept, and I know maybe it's not called that, but generally a lot of programmers, they yield a sort of, you know, disbelief, or not disbelief, but delusion. That's the word I'm looking for. They yield this sort of delusion of that their code should work, that what they have written should absolutely work under any circumstance, that there can be no error, and that's where actually a lot of bugs occur from. That a lot of people, they don't critically analyze what is it that their code is doing, and that's reflected in also the symptom of things akin to bad commenting structure, like when people don't comment. They don't comment their code, they don't have any documentation, they don't have any structure. It's very procedurally written, basically. Like someone's like, oh, what do we do with this? Okay, fuck it, this is how we're going to solve it, kind of. And while that may work in smaller projects and smaller scale of things, that's really, really bad in bigger general structures. Like bigger general structures, you need a procedure, and you need to follow routine, and you need to have fallback instructions case of things going bad. And that has a lot just to do with hygiene, basically, like code hygiene. How do you, how do you secure yourself in that manner of dealing with how is your code structured? Like how is the things built? What is your security built on? What is it that your thought of presumption? Why would you be so sure of your assessment? It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's a very, very famous psychological effect that I have personally not read enough about it. I've read articles about it, but I have not read any books about the subject, so I can't speak in greater detail about it, but I find it greatly fascinating. Third thing is emotional investment. Code and problem solving inherently does not involve your emotions. Basically, like social problems may, but logical code problems do not. Regardless of if you're happy, if you have a tantrum, if you are sad, in love, whatever your state of mood or being is, code does not change. Code does not change on that factor. It does not change on the grounds of what you feel. And a lot of people, they have a hard time to disconnect what they feel from what they are writing. Like they personally invest themselves as an extension of themselves. It becomes like autobiographical, basically. That their code is part of what they wrote, who they are. And that's a really bad thing, actually. That's a codependency of emotion that's really harmful to your production, your state of production of doing, in terms of handling code. Like, you should not be that invested in these things. You should kind of be trying to be logical and structured and, write things, write a flow schema or like a user case or something, some kind of structure to find an overview of the entire thing so that you can step by step process and walk through the entire thing to find a coherent structure that makes sense, like find a pattern from that. Number 4, the wrong people for the wrong kind of job. This is a very social kind of thing, but also kind of a lack of structure thing, I think, but it heavily relates into code. And that's the kind of thing that people, they sometimes allocate the wrong person to the wrong job. Maybe they have someone who knows a lot of CSS or HTML, and they're maybe not really, they're not completely invested in the respective product or respective framework that you're working with or the structure you're working with. And you say you have someone who's not critically analyzing the problem and thinking, how do we fix this problem in a very concrete, precise, concise manner? And instead, you just throw, the first best person you hear the same words, and you throw that person there. You hear front end framework, and you're like, oh, hey, this guy knows HTML. Let's throw him in there, right? But it doesn't work like that. You have to dig deeper. Code is that's almost always the answer. Dig deeper. You can never truly assess the situation in a real, accurate, depictive manner by virtue of just saying, whatever. Just put it out there. Number 5, last one. The development process. This one I feel I have a lot of experience from. Right, a lot of experience. And it again ties back into how do we process code? How do we structure code? How do we build an infrastructure of code that makes sense? And this is like a very large gradient of very many small things. It could be variable names, like variable namings. There's always someone else who's going to look at your code, so you have to like name your variables in a concise, accurate manner. You should have accurate names of repositories, and like having sectioning is also very good there. Having like one section that is for like testing, experimental, design, one that could be customer integration, and then one that is the final live product. And tying in those documents, it's the same with the branching and the names and whatnot of the repositories, that you have to have accurate depictive names of these things. And it's always this kind of thing that a lot of people, they don't. A lot of people sometimes are desperate, especially in hard situations. They're desperate for that one simple answer to something. They want that one simple thing to tell them what is it they're doing wrong. They want something to blame or something to hear as an explanation to their problems. It's like, oh, hey, but you're stupid or something. And they're like, okay, whatever. Or maybe it's the program that's stupid or whatever. But that's almost never, ever the case. It's not, almost never, ever the case that someone is stupid that makes the code not work. It's never, ever that the technology is stupid that makes the code not work. I mean, there's so much of a gradient of documentation, clarity, naming conventions, integrations, and accessibility. How accessible is the thing you're trying to do? How easy is it to reach someone who is knowledgeable about this thing, or reach the development team behind this or the documentation team behind this and talk to them about these things? I mean, I heard incidents and read incidents about behind the PHP language, the PHP language specification, there was like a bug with the recursive iterators, and there was a bug in terms of handling the array constructions, in terms of how do we build recursive array iterator structures and make those work correctly, right? And a lot of people they reported this as a bug, and the PHP team responded with that, yeah, it's not a bug, it's a feature. You know, that's kind of dishonest, and it's kind of erroneous as well to do. You can't just brush off, integral structure problems with facts of saying like, oh hey, but it's it's not that important, or yeah, it's meant to do that. It's that's saving face. But the problem with code is not about saving face. It's not about that you should be socially accepted for what you are doing. To become a better programmer, to become a better coder, fundamentally, you have to become better at discerning your own weaknesses, the code weaknesses, and holding an honesty and hygiene in your structure and work. Anyway, guys, that was my 5 points for the day. And I thank you very much for listening. If you guys have anything you want to tell me or talk to me or discuss the things or feedback, whatever, you can talk to me in the comments below. And I thank you all for listening. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.